Indeed, as John says, this is the fifth consecutive year I've participated in this dialogue as Secretary of Defense, and he is also correct in that it will be my last. The opportunity to lead the United States Department of Defense for 4.5 years has been an extraordinary honor, for which I thank both President Bush and President Obama. It has also given me perspective on the principal subject I want to discuss today: the enduring and consistent nature of America's commitments in Asia, even in times of transition and change. As someone who will leave government having served 8 presidents, I know something about the uncertainty that transitions can cause. In fact, I've touched on this subject in my remarks here before. At the 2008 session, not knowing what the outcome of the U.S. presidential election would be, and certainly not thinking I would be a member of the new administration, I said that the next American president would be almost certain to sustain our engagement and our presence in this region. As the record shows, and my speech, I hope, will make clear, under President Obama, that engagement has not only been sustained, it has been broadened and enhanced in a variety of ways. And I believe the same will hold true with respect to U.S. defense policy under Leon Panetta, the distinguished statesman nominated as my successor. Nonetheless, we meet today at a time when the United States faces a daunting set of challenges, at home and abroad. When questions are being raised about the sustainability and credibility of our commitments around the world, these questions are serious and legitimate. No doubt, fighting 2 protracted and costly wars in Iraq and Afghanistan has strained the U.S. military's ground forces and worn out the patience and appetite of the American people for similar interventions in the future. On the domestic front, the United States is emerging slowly from a serious recession with huge budget deficits and a growing debt that is putting new scrutiny and downward pressure on the U.S. defense budget. These are some of the stark realities that we face. But at the same time, it is important in this place, before this audience, to recognize an equally compelling set of facts with respect to America's position in Asia. A record demonstrating that irrespective of the tough times the U.S. faces today, or the tough budget choices we confront in the years to come, that America's interests as a Pacific nation, as a country that conducts much of its trade in the region, will endure. And the United States and Asia will only become more inextricably linked over the course of this century. As I hope my presentation today will show, these realities, this understanding shared by U.S. leaders and policymakers across the political spectrum argue strongly for sustaining our commitments to allies while maintaining a robust military engagement and deterrence posture across the Pacific Rim. This statement is underscored by the significant growth in the breadth and intensity of U.S. engagement in Asia in recent years, even at a time of economic distress at home and 2 major military campaigns ongoing in Iraq and Afghanistan. 3 years ago, I spoke at this gathering and touted the fact that I was on my 4th major trip to Asia Pacific in the previous 18 months. Now I can report that this is my 14th trip to Asia over the last 4.5 years. Next month, Secretary of State Clinton will embark on her 8th trip to Asia, and President Obama has made a major Asia trip each year he has been in office. Indeed, one of the most striking and surprising changes I've observed during my travels to Asia is the widespread desire across the region for stronger military-to-military relationships with the United States, much more so than during my last time in government 20 years ago. Our engagement in Asia has been guided by a set of enduring principles that have fostered the economic growth and stability of the region. I spoke about these principles last year, but I think that it's worth reiterating our commitment to them once more today. Free and open commerce, a just international order that emphasizes rights and responsibilities of nations and fidelity to the rule of law, open access by all to the global commons of sea, air, space, and now cyberspace, and the principle of resolving conflict without the use of force. The commitment and presence of the United States as a Pacific nation has been one of the relatively few constants amidst the furious changes in this region over the past half-century. But as this region has changed, America has always shown the flexibility not only to maintain our presence in the Asia-Pacific, but to enhance it by updating relationships, developing new capabilities, and transforming our defense posture to meet the challenges of the day. For example, after fighting a devastating war, the United States and Japan built an alliance that has weathered innumerable tests and proven to be a cornerstone of stability in the region. The most recent and compelling display of the value of our alliance was the sight of the U.S. and Japanese troops working together to bring aid and sustenance to the survivors of the horrific earthquake and tsunami in March. Consider that within 24 hours of the earthquake, the United States initiated Operation Tomodachi to deliver assistance to the affected areas in support of the Japanese self-defense forces, more than 100,000 of whom had been mobilized by the Japanese government. At the peak of these closely coordinated joint relief efforts, the United States had more than 24,000 personnel, 190 aircraft, and 24 ships supporting Japan's response. The U.S. military and Japanese self-defense forces delivered relief supplies to affected communities, repaired transportation infrastructure, and searched for survivors along the affected coastline. This effort demonstrated the high level of interoperability between the U.S. and Japanese defense forces and served to validate years of investments by both nations in combined training and capabilities. Today, it is clear that the alliance not only has survived this tragedy, but emerged stronger and even more vital.